the image or not. The next function that we are going to work on is a function that will allow us to present a form, that is the HTML file, to the user to upload image 1 and image 2. If you do remember, I said Django works on the model view templates. The model is the database. In this project, we are not using any database. The view is where all our logic takes place, and the template is what we are going to present to the user, or what the user is going to see. So we have designed a view to compare our faces. This is going to happen at the back end. This particular function that we created is technically a view. This view, the user is not going to see it, but we want another view that will be able to present the user with an HTML file, and that HTML file is where the user will upload the images. We pick the image up, then we pass the image to this particular function. So in order not to bring confusion, let's proceed and build that function and see how it is also going to work. So to create a function in Python, we have already created one. You just call your definition. So let's define a function. What will be the name of our function? This function, let's call it template function. So template underscore function. This function also is going to take a parameter. What parameter are we going to pass to this? This is going to be just a request parameter, because the user is going to make a request to this function. Then the next line, we are going to set results to none. So initially, results should be equal to none. The initial results that we are going to get here, we will set it to none, because when the user visits the page, we don't have any image to provide the user with the results of. The next thing is to check the request method. So we need to check if the request dot method is equal to post. So we need to find out whether the request that the user is sending, they are posting a request. Is it a post? Is it a get? Is it a put? Is it a delete? We want a request which is a post request. That is, the user has uploaded the form and it's submitting. That is the post request. Once the user wants to make a post request, let's provide the user with a form. So we create a variable called form, which is equal to, you remember the image upload form that we created in forms.py. This is the time to present it to the user. So we present the image upload form to the user. Then this form, we pass the request that the user made. So request.post, since we are working with the post request. Then since the user is going to upload files, we need to pass that file also to the request. So request.files. Then once we have presented the user with a form, we need to check whether the form is valid. We need to check whether the form is valid. So if this form here, if form dot is underscore valid, which is a function that we can use, if the form is valid, this is what we want to do. We want to clean the data for image 1 and image 2. So we use image 1. You remember the form fields. Then you go to form.py. The form field is what? Image 1 and image 2. That is the variable name that we gave to the form. So we need to clean image 1. So image 1 will be equal to form. Image 1 should be equal to form.clean underscore data. Then what will be the name of the form field? When you create an HTML form, there are several parameters that you can give to the form. We have value, we have name, we have class, and so on. The name field, what will be the name of the field in that particular form? It should be image1. So we clean the records for image1. Then we clean the records also for image2. So we pass image2, then we clean the records as well. Once that is done, you remember I told you we want to open the image to work with the image that the user uploaded. That is why we imported several libraries. So all we simply need to do is with open the images that the user uploaded. We want to create a temporary one, which is temp1.jpg. This is supposed to be in single quotes. So temp1.jpg. Then we need to write, that is wb plus. Okay. Then we need to open as f. Then once we have opened the image, there are going to be chunks. So for chunk in image1.chunks, that is image1.chunks, image1.chunks, we simply want to write the chunk. So f.write, then chunk. We also need to do the same thing for image2 because we also want to open image2 and work with it. So I'll simply just copy this, paste it again, and this time around we need to create a temporary image for image2. We need to work with image2, then we f.write the chunk for image2. So once we do this, we have opened it and we have worked with it, we need to check whether we are going to get a result. So result should be equal to, we have the images opened in chunks, so we want to pass the chunks that we have opened to this compare faces. Then we pass the files to this particular function. Then the function will also work to check whether there are faces on it for us. So once we have been able to open the image, we need to pass it to the compare faces function that we wrote earlier on. And we renamed the files to temp1 and temp2. So we remember the function compare faces was taking two parameters, image part 1 and image part 2. So we need to pass two parameters, and those two parameters in here will be temp1 and temp2. We pass it to the library. Then once that is done, you remember we had an if condition up there, that is if the request is post. What happens if the request is not a post request? We need to write an else statement to handle that. If the request is not a post statement, we just present the user with an empty form, and that form will be the image upload form again. Then at the end of the day, which template do we want to present to the user? We want to return and render. You remember we imported render. We want to render the request, then a template to the user. So our template, we will just name it form.html. Then this should be in single quotes form.html. So we pass the templates. Once we pass the template, we need to pass a context. So the context that we want to pass will be the form that we want to send to the HTML template. We want the HTML template to present the form to the user. So we need to pass the form as a parameter, which in Django we call a context. So we need to pass it as a context here. And the context are key pairs. We need to pass the form, which will be equal to the form. And this is the form. This form that we have here, this is the form that we are passing as a context here. And at the end of the day, if we also get a result in here, we need to send the results to the user. So we also pass results as results. So this is how we are going to present the form to the user. Then we will be able to pass the images uploaded to our compare faces function we created earlier on. In the next video, we are going to work on how we will get this form.html template and present it to the user. The user will upload the forms, then we pass it to our